Well, the haters gonna hate, and the faker's gonna fake, baby. I'm just gonna making luck, a mini podcast.
Yeah, so at the risk of going any further and reopening that particular can of worms, that I really don't want to get into again, welcome to Making Luck.
I'm dying to know.
Oh, I mean, like, you know what I'm talking about. Like,
just say it, I'll bleep it out. Oh, okay.
Just,
nice. Okay.
Like...
Okay, let the record show that I didn't say that unless you think we're the same person.
Right.
Which, well, we are. But other than that...
Yeah.
So, this is a podcast about a card game.
It sure is.
There's something I want to say right now because I forgot, like, 2 or 3 separate times last week to say this on the podcast.
Yeah.
3 episodes from now is going to be a mini-sode. And as such, what we'd like to do is another Q&A episode. That's easy to pre-record, and since we know a mini-sode's coming, figure, it's been like 3 or 4 months since we did the last one.
Yeah.
It's a decent opportunity to do it. We have questions from last time, and, we'll answer those, and there's still a lot of good questions left. However, if you have questions that you want to ask us being, Jake and I, but also Wandering Winder, and if you have any questions that you want to ask, maybe something popped into your mind, or maybe we said something since then, or maybe you just thought of a new question, or maybe you really want a certain question you already asked it, whatever, let us know. We'd like to hear from you.
Yeah.
You can go to adamhorton.com. You can find forums there. You can put it there. You can go to the link to our Discord server. You can put it there. Our contact information is on that page. You can
email.
Yeah, you can email, but if I don't respond to your email with questions, then it might have gone to my spam folder like one person's questions did last time, and I feel terrible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a thing that could happen.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But there's at least one of those questions that I want to answer, and maybe anyway. But
it's a good chance to get to those.
Yeah. Please let us know if you have any questions. We'd like to hear from you and, answer the questions. Or, if you have other things to say about the podcast, of course.
Yeah.
Shout. Holla.
Text.
Yeah.
Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that seems fine.
Yeah, for sure. So, last episode, we talked a little bit about... Triumph.
Nice.
And we spent some time playing out a kingdom that had Triumph on it, which we're going to go into. But before we do that, just so you know, this episode that we're about to go into is a dual episode of Scepter and Charm.
It's a dual episode because Jake and I are going to actually fight.
Yeah, like with our fists.
Fists or maybe some other weapons.
Yeah, I'd like to throw the odd headbutt here or there.
Yeah.
Always aim for the bridge of the nose. But it really hurts if you miss that. But anyway, yeah, so so Scepter and Charm, but before we go into that, let's recap that kingdom that we've been playing over this last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll read some cards.
That sounds good.
We have Scrying Pool, Smugglers, Blessed Village, Farming Village, Navigator, Crown, Old Witch, Tactician, Tragic Hero, Wharf, and we had Triumph and Citadel. One more time for our audio-only listeners. Scrying Pool, Smugglers, Blessed Village, Farming Village, Navigator, Crown, Old Witch, Tactician, Tragic Hero, Wharf, and we had Triumph and Citadel.
Yeah, so this was kind of interesting. We talked about a few things. I think we both agreed Triumph is going to be relevant here. We both agreed that you're probably getting a Citadel at some point.
Yeah.
We also both agreed that your open, for the most part, revolves around getting an Old Witch pretty quickly.
Old Witch, I think, is your first 5er. We agreed on that.
Yeah, and that the junking is important, and, it seems quite important.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about a few things where we didn't like flat out disagree, but we did have some different ideas about where to go from there.
Yeah.
One thing I said is that I didn't think that you could ignore Scrying Pool, and not only can you ignore it, I actually don't think going for Scrying Pool is good. Like it's actually kind of bad, I think, because like it's so slow. You have to put a potion in your deck, and you have to... That really delays you from getting your old witch, so you fall behind on junking, which makes your Scrying Pools worse. And normally, it'd still be fine because it's a big source of draw and you need that, but like there's Wharf here, and so... You know, you've got a lot of draw coming from other places.
Yeah, I think Wharf is very important here because there's no thinning. The only way to trash cards here is either, you know, your opponent plays an Old Witch and you happen to have a curse in hand, but, like, you know, that's not going to trash your starting cards. Or you can buy a Blessed Village and get the Flames gift. Woo!
Yeah, it's a thing that can happen, and of course it did happen once or twice through our games.
Yeah, each of us had it happen one time.
Yeah, I don't think
it was hot.
I don't think it was, like, super... like game decisive, but it was
felt
certainly nice.
Amazing.
It does.
And you know what I always say: if it feels good, do it.
Yeah, he has said that from time to time. So the other thing is, I had also advocated for trying out this deck, and I didn't hard commit to saying this was going to be best, but I did say it was going to be viable, where you ignore Wharf and you ignore Scrying Pool, and you go hard for the Tragic Hero Crown Megaturn. That's where you are playing your crowns and Tragic Heroes to gain more crowns, and buying Tragic Heroes and golds and things, and then you just eventually pop off with one giant turn where you play a bunch of crowns and Tragic Heroes, and, you know, maybe you pile out and get a Triumph, maybe you get a bunch of provinces and transition to playing money after that, maybe like 4 or 5 provinces, and then you start playing money. And that turns out not to be competitive here. And I will say that I think that it would have had a chance to be if this game was going to last a little longer than it did. I don't think you have time to set that deck up, though, because Old Witch is emptying curses, and the Wharves give out so many extra gains that, you know, like... The piles run low before that mega turn could be realized. On top of that, it turns out that even if you are going to be building that deck, Wharves kind of help quite a bit with it. So
Wharf is a really good card.
Yeah, Wharf is a really good card. Yeah.
It makes things possible that just aren't possible with other things.
Yeah.
Especially here. Like, it doesn't matter that there's no thinning and Old Witch, which is a great chunking attack. You can just play Wharves. You can Crown Wharves, you can Citadel Wharves, and you can start with a big enough hand that you can still do some really great stuff.
Yeah, it was surprising how little trashing the curses came up.
I was surprised, yeah. I thought that...
Because you have to have them in your starting hand, and, like, you're drawing through your whole deck. So, like, there's a lot of chances for them not to be in your starting hand.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're probably... If they're not at the top of the shuffle in your starting hand, you're probably drawing through them anyway, so, like, you know, you don't have a whole lot of chances to trash them.
Yeah. I kind of expected to be a little thinner, but, like, I don't think there was a single game where I trashed 2 curses to an Old Witch. I don't think that ever happened to me.
I'm sure it happened to me once or twice where I got 2 at least, but, like, it was... Yeah, you would end up with, like, 5 curses in your deck, and that's not unusual on this board. So, let's talk about the beginning of the game and the end of the game, now that we've thoroughly fleshed out the middle.
Yeah.
So, like,
nice.
We talked about Triumph being a good source of endgame points, and I do think that Triumph almost always mattered.
Yeah.
But you came to this realization that I kind of agree with about maybe Triumphs not being good as early as, like, I was taking them.
So we talked about this in the episode.
Yeah.
Let's say that we're mirrored here, and, you know, curses are low, wars are low, and other piles can get low. Villages, crowns, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
And, you know, piles are low, which means the end of the game is coming, and a lot of times, if the end of the game is coming and you don't want to lose, one of your options is to get some points.
Right.
So, like, I'll call it a panic province or something.
Yeah.
And with Triumph around, that just wasn't really an option most of the time. I don't think you want to get a panic province because a lot of times a province just isn't enough points.
Yeah, because like it's really easy to get a 6-point triumph, and then GG, piles are low, and your points lead wasn't enough.
Yeah. So like if you get this province, you're not really. It doesn't really protect you from losing the game, and the triumph for your opponent, all it costs them is a gain. So really, what you want to be doing is positioning yourself so that you can be the one to empty the piles and have a gain left over, and then get that triumph.
And that really comes down to pile control, or to put it a little more bluntly, making your deck do a bunch of stuff on this board. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to build more. You want to be able to threaten more games.
Yeah.
So when the Wharves are out, put some more crowns in the deck so you can crown some Wharves and get some more buys.
Yeah.
Or if
Smugglers.
Or if you want,
thing too.
Yeah, if you want some more draw, do Tragic Hero. Or if you just want to gain stuff, Smugglers can be useful. You're probably gonna have a Smugglers in the deck anyway.
Yeah, Tragic Heroes, they didn't get bought until later in the game when the Wharves were pretty much out, just because you're never at a point where you're like so good on draw that you're like, oh, don't want the card that draws more, and the Wharves draw more. So but when you do get the Tragic Heroes, they are quite good because it really does inject a good amount of payload, especially if you crown them.
Yeah, and then you can, like, if the crowns are low, you can use a Tragic Hero to gain a crown, which might lower a pile and be a good thing for you.
Yeah,
especially if you can play the crown.
Sets up a bigger triumph, too, if you do that.
Yeah, you get 2 gains from playing just the one Tragic Hero.
Yeah, now I will say that the amount of points that you gain off of your triumph tended not to matter a ton.
Yeah, you just get 1 triumph and the game's over. GG.
Yeah, so like, I mean, unless your opponent had been scoring in the meantime, in which case they made their deck worse and you didn't, so you win.
Yeah, I played some games against the bot.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of points with triumph if you really want to.
But that just tends not to be the best strategy against a human who is playing competently and, pressuring piles with you and stuff like that.
I guess, yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the end of the game, and we talked about the middle. We just have to talk about the beginning.
Yeah.
How do you open here?
Well, it definitely depends on what your opponent opens.
Kinda, and it also kind of depends on your turn order, right?
It kind of does, yeah. So
Smugglers tends to do that.
Yeah, that revolves around Smugglers. So, like, in a perfect world, I would open Silver Smugglers, right? I mean, that seems like a fine opening. However, if you were a first player, you can get a Silver turn 1, and then you see your opponent get a Silver turn 1, and it's a little more sus to get the Smugglers on turn 2, because what if they get a Smugglers on turn 2? Now you're a little bit sad because they have a lower chance of hitting 5, and maybe if you draw your Smugglers on turn 3, you're smuggling a Smugglers, which is not something you want because you'd rather be hitting 5 to get an Old Witch, and so it can be safer then to open double Silver.
Okay, yeah, safer on the premise that you need to get that Old Witch ASAP, and
I could see an argument for just getting the Smugglers anyway as first player, but that's just not something that I felt comfortable doing.
Okay, and you do need the Old Witch very soon.
It's important.
Because you don't want to fall behind on junking, so that is a thing. I'm going to advocate opening Silver Smugglers no matter what, though.
Well, unless you see your opponent get a potion.
Well, okay, if you see your opponent get a potion, yeah, you play differently. You're playing against a different deck at that point.
Right.
And the Smugglers is a lot less good in that instance.
Yes.
Although, you probably get the Smugglers later even against that deck because Smugglers is still a pretty decent card even if it's gaining 3 and 4 costs here. I would buy Workshop all day here, I'm just saying.
I would only buy Workshop like 55% of the days here.
Yeah, yeah. But I like opening with the Smugglers anyway just because, one, you can smuggle a 5 cost and that's great. And the Silver alone gives you a reasonable chance to hit 5 by itself, even though you put a Smugglers in the deck. Right. It's not 100%, but it's reasonable. And, you're going to want the Smugglers. Having the Smugglers... just being able to threaten getting a 5 cost is really strong. Yeah. And the Smugglers turns out to be a really good card in the deck throughout the whole game, because it helps you build. And, again, your end game revolves around pile control. So the Smugglers is more gains.
For sure. I think, we both said Citadel will be good.
Yeah.
I found myself giving up turns of 10 and 2 buys just to get the Citadel.
Yeah, it's good, especially with Crown out.
Oh, yeah. Well, Crown gets a lot better once you have the Citadel.
Yeah.
Because, let's say you have a Citadel and your deck is a bunch of villages and warbs and an Old Witch. If you want to have a good turn, you are Citadeling a village, and that feels really bad. But if you have a Crown, then you can Citadel Crown, and then you can double that draw card right away, and then still have something else to double. And you know, maybe if you want to play actions after that, you're going to have to double a village at some point. But you're drawing cards a little earlier in the turn here, and I mean, the Citadel Crown is just quite good.
I don't remember. Did either of us ever experiment with a Tactician?
I said it might not be crazy, but like, man, you need that Old Witch first, and
bad,
man, you just need to shove orbs in the deck after that.
Yeah, and like the Old Witch really is a big deal because like, yeah, the draw is really impressive, but you're not gonna draw your whole deck very easily. You might do it, but you're not gonna do it every turn. This is not the kind of board where you can draw your deck every turn, unless you like really win the Wharf Split by a lot. I mean, you know, you could draw your deck every turn, but against an opponent who is, you know, pressuring you to start scoring and pressuring piles, and you know, you're probably not going to. And so, like, the junking hurts, and it's hard to get rid of those curses.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else about this kingdom?
I
hate smugglers.
Yeah, you do hate smugglers. I don't love smugglers. I don't hate it as much as you do, I don't think, but it can be a little annoying to play with.
Preach it, man.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to talk about Scepter and Charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Scepter first or Charm first?
Let's do Scepter first, yeah?
Sweet.
So these are both these sort of 5-cost treasures that function as like silver plus, right? These cards that are quote-unquote strictly better than silver and cost more. These both have like this silver mode that you can play them in. You can at least play them as a silver, and then they have this alternate mode that you'd probably rather be playing them in, but is more situational, right? Has a potential higher upside, but the silver is there to be like a minimum value floor of this card.
Hashtag minimum value floor.
Yeah.
Hashtag normal dominion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Scepter, I'll go ahead and read the text of the card.
Yeah.
It's a 5-cost treasure. It's from the Renaissance expansion. And it's worth $?
I like how it's a question mark and not like a 0 or something. Like,
well, it varies.
Well, okay, sure.
It says, when you play this, choose one, plus $2, or replay an action card you played this turn that's still in play. So that's a lot of words, but it just means play one of your actions that you already played.
Yeah, now remember that because it's a treasure, you don't play it in the action phase, you play it in the buy phase. So like some rules clarifications that are important to understanding how this card functions. You don't go back to your action phase just because you're playing actions. So things that draw you cards and give you plus actions are a lot less good. Things that draw you cards, you can play more treasures after that, but this treasure let you play that particular action. Even if that action gave you plus actions, you do not get to play more actions afterward.
Yeah.
FYI.
FYI.
So, for the most part on Scepter, I'd say that the silver mode of it, playing it for $2, is kind of a consolation prize for not drawing it in a hand that lets you do what you really wanted to use the card for. Right?
Yeah, one of the big things about Scepter is it has this awkwardness because it really wants to be drawn together in a hand that has some action cards, right? So you need some action cards in a deck with Scepter to get the most out of it. However, if you want to draw cards with the Scepter, what you really want to be drawing is not action cards because it's very rare that you'll be able to play them.
Yeah, it's weird. So Scepter does not want to be playing draw cards, but Scepter does slot nicely into a deck and play nicely along with draw cards, because, you know, it can play action cards and you can draw it dead and it still does its thing.
Yeah.
So, like, even though it doesn't want to play action cards, they tend to be in the same decks.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, there is this awkwardness that's kind of built into the card.
Yeah.
And so it can be hard to find decks where Scepter is, like, this amazing OP thing. but I gotta be honest with you, like, Scepter has a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, I remember this.
It's definitely a Johnny card, and let me tell you, during playtesting, I played a lot of really, really bad Scepter decks.
This is true, and I was there for a lot of them. But he also played some really amazing Scepter decks, because this is the kind of card that, like, when it is really good, it tends to be, like, amazing, right? I mean, yeah, it has its in-between moments, but, like, it has a really high floor, or a really high ceiling of things it can do.
Well, I also played a lot of amazing Scepter decks, because early on in playtesting, it used to be a different thing that was a lot better.
Well, Scepter used to be OP, yeah.
Yeah, it would always give you $1, and it would always let you play an action card.
Yeah.
And that's really, really powerful. And so, like, I tend to overestimate how powerful Scepter is, and I just want to... I see fireworks whenever I see Scepter.
Yeah.
And so I go for a lot of ridiculous decks. They don't work out, and part of it is to see, like, oh, well, if this 2-card deck works out, then that's kind of degenerate. Maybe we want to do something about it.
Yeah, right.
And you're welcome. Because, I mean, even though I didn't find anything, if there was something to be found, I would have found it.
Yeah. He tried Scepter Scholar. And
I was the first. I know this.
So, okay.
And it seemed really great. Like, I got 2 provinces really fast, and you and your girlfriend were like, oh god, we lose hard. And I did absolutely nothing the rest of the game.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
It was good. I don't remember who won that game, but I know it wasn't Adam. Anyway.
It was not me. I got last place.
Okay,
so good.
Let's teleport back into the present day. Scepter today. It generally shines, I'd say, Scepter when the village support is either weak or, like, non-existent, right? Because it is giving you the resources or the ability to play an extra card, ideally that, like, you wouldn't have the resources or ability to play an extra copy of, either because you didn't have the extra copy or because you don't have an action to play it or something. In a way, it's ideal case, like when Scepter is happy and doing what it wants to be doing, it kind of looks a little bit like Royal Carriage.
Yeah, so Scepter is a village.
Yeah.
And that point, I think that's important. Like, Scepter is a village. It does allow you to play more than one terminal action in a turn.
Yeah, it's a village with some, like, serious restrictions on
right, and some of those
things that it lets you do, but yeah.
Some of those restrictions feel very similar to Royal Carriage's restrictions.
Sure.
And in a lot of ways, it, as a village, can act as kind of like a worse version of Royal Carriage. Royal Carriage is indeed better at being a village than Scepter is. That's no secret. In fact, Royal Carriage is better at most things than Scepter is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can come up with some cases where Scepter has an edge on Royal Carriage for sure. The notable one is that you can draw Scepter dead as a treasure and still play it and do stuff with it, and that Scepter can give you $2 if you need money right now. But in its ideal case, it's functioning as a bad Royal Carriage. I'd say.
I would say that. I guess now's as good a time as any. Like, when you said you can draw Scepter dead, like, I'm thinking of decks that care about that more than they care about, I didn't line up my Scepter with the thing I wanted to double, which is a very large concern.
Yeah, now when I say, by the way, draw it dead, what I'm talking about is drawing it and having 0 actions, right? So, like, because it's a treasure, right? I'm talking about, like, I play a Smithy and I draw a Royal Carriage. I'm boned. I can't do anything. I need an action to play the Royal Carriage. I play a Smithy, I draw the Scepter.
I can play Scepter as Smithy and draw a bunch of other stuff dead, right?
Yeah.
So there are 2 cards that actually matter with this.
Yeah.
Number 1 is Torturer.
Yeah.
For sure. If the success of my turn is completely determined by how many Torturers I can play, then give me 1 or 2 Torturers and let me shove a bunch of Scepters in the deck, and it matters that I can play a Torturer, draw a Scepter, and play another Torturer on my opponent. That matters. And then the other one is Wild Hunt for similar reasons. Your turn, the success of your turn can just be measured by how many Wild Hunts you play in a turn. And so Scepter outshines Royal Carriage in that way. In fact, I would consider building a deck around Scepter as the village with those 2 when I might not have done it with Royal Carriage.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Now, I will say that, like, in general, Scepter really doesn't want to be paired with deck control. And when we talk about deck control, what we're talking about are cards that help you play more cards, and usually we're talking about actions.
Usually action cards.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear.
Scepter really doesn't help play nice with cards that are meant to enable playing more actions because it doesn't help you play more actions. So, things like plus cards are a lot less good on Scepter. Things like plus actions are almost non-existent on Scepter. But so what you do want to be pairing Scepter with is trashing is a big one. So like that's the only deck control function that like it is good with is trashing. Because it can replay that. You usually still have cards in your hand or what have you. And payload. And also, notably in payload, attacks. Like Adam already said, torturer, but like lots of attacks
junkers.
that stack. I mean, yeah, junkers, which are a kind of payload, but I think like they warrant a special mention with Scepter because they tend to be like kind of brutal. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, attacks as a form of payload. Really, it's all payload. Right, you can kind of think of Scepter as like a royal carriage or like a throne room or anything from that family, but it only works on payload cards.
Right, but it has the option to give you money right now if that's better in the odd situation.
Sure. So I think it's this is a great example of why understanding the distinction between payload and deck control can be relevant.
Yeah.
Because now I see Scepter, and I think, oh, I'm looking for villages. I see Scepter, that's a village, but hold on, I can only use that village to play more payload cards. So what I can't do is play a smithy and then, use my Scepter to continue my turn after I play a smithy, right? That's not what I can use Scepter for. I can use it to... Oh.
So you got a Scepter, right? And the thing with Scepter is, right, you can play it as a treasure. That's like super boring. You could play it as an action card, but like certain kinds of action cards, it kind of sucks to play in your buy phase after you've played treasures, because like you can't play more actions then. You can't do it. And so like what use is a village to you? Because like you can't use the village if you can't use the play more action because it's not allowed. The rules of the game don't let you do. And like drawing cards, like yeah, so it's okay, but if you draw more actions, you can't play them. And usually when you're drawing cards, those are the cards you want to play. So like those are the limitations of Scepter. You can't do that stuff. But sometimes you still can. This is edge case. Well, honoring winter. So you got Villa, you got Capitalism, and Black Market, and Storyteller, and those all let you do with Scepter, but that's like normal. And this is edge-cased with Wandering Winder. So because it's edge-cased with Wandering Winder, we're going to talk about some other things you can do with the Scepter. It's not just those normal things, right? So let's say you played a bunch of Horns of Plenty, right? You played a bunch of Horns of Plenty, yeah, you do that. And then you can play your Scepter on your draw card, right? And you draw the stuff you gain with your Horns of Plenty. So like normally it's only going to be good if the stuff you gained you can still play, but like maybe you wanted to gain more Horns of Plenty or more Scepters. You can do that, right? Maybe you wanted to gain other treasures. I don't know why you want to do that, but like gaining more Horns of Plenty and then drawing them and then playing them, that's like a real thing that could come up. Yeah, or maybe you just like want to trigger a shuffle, right? You want to trigger a shuffle, you can do that. You could trigger that shuffle because it's like a bad cards, like your next hand's going to be better. Maybe you gain some stuff with Horn of Plenty and you use your Scepter to play like a village, some kind of cantrip to draw one card, and then you trigger that shuffle and it seeds your next hand. Yeah, that's something you might be able to do. Right? What else? Like maybe you're just gonna, that your next cards are really crummy. You want to draw through them. You could do that. Sometimes you just want to draw some more treasures. That's boring again. I'm drawing more treasures. Oh yeah. I mean, like you do it, but I don't know. But with throne room effects, right? So you got your throne room. Maybe you got your procession. Maybe you got your King's Court. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. You know what I'm talking about? I know what you're talking about. We're talking about things you can do with Scepter, right? So you play a Scepter, and you play a Smithy again, right? You draw 3 more cards, and there's some action cards in there, and usually, oh no, I drew my action cards dead. But like, no, because you have a King's Court in play. And of course you're doing this with another Scepter in hand, so you play that next Scepter, and then you play King's Court again. And then you can triply play that action that you drew. And that action, of course, was another King's Court, and you also drew another Smithy. So now you're drawing a whole bunch of cards, and you can keep playing all these actions, because that's like, look at the wording on King's Court. It works. It works. So with King's Court Throne Room, watch out for this. Watch out for this. You can salvage some stuff, and I don't just mean with the card salvager, because this is Hardcast with Wandering Winder. So that's a really good thing that you can do. And then lastly, sometimes you've got a diadem. You got a diadem, and you've got a bustling village or a bazaar in play, right? Yeah. And that bustling village or the bazaar, if you play it again, it's going to make you more than 2 money. Yeah. And the last thing to note is crown. Now you think that's a throne room effect, right? Well, it is a throne room effect, but like, oh, we already talked about those. Well, we did already talk about those, but crown is different because when you're playing your Scepter, it's the buy phase. So you can play the crown again because it is an action card, even though it's a buy phase. But like, you play a crown, and then you have to play a treasure twice. So you can play treasure twice. Like, you got gold in your hand, you can play that gold twice, and it's a way to, even though you use your crown earlier, right? You used your crown earlier as some kind of a deck control function, and now you can use it as a payload function. You can get more money, right, by playing the gold twice. It's an extra money compared to if you would just take the money on the Scepter. Or maybe you want to play another Scepter twice, right? So instead of playing a Scepter and then another Scepter to get 2 Scepter plays, you can play a Scepter on a crown, use the crown to play a Scepter twice, and you get 2 Scepter plays. Galaxy brain. And now you're probably thinking, like, why would you do this? Because there's no card that says, like, oh, well, whenever you play a treasure card, get some, like, there isn't that card isn't there. It doesn't exist. But if your crown had a token on it, some kind of a plus money or plus buy or plus, probably not plus action, maybe plus card token, right? And you get some bonus. You get some bonus by doing it through the crown instead. Or maybe you just want to play some other specialty treasure more than once. And you can do that with Scepter and Crown. You can do that. But you can't play an action with crown. It doesn't work like the other throne room effects. Keep it in mind, you can't do it because it's the buy phase. So even though it's like, oh, it's like I'm playing an action, in the buy phase, that's what crown does. It plays treasures.
Is he done?
I don't know. Are you done? Okay. Anyway,
Nice.
yeah. So.
So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So Scepter being like a throne room or a royal carriage, it only works on payload cards, right? It is a village.
Yeah.
But it really works only on those payload cards. So it's like I often say about throne room, in the most optimistic sense, which is a lot of the time. The text of the card reads +1 action and then the best action on the board. And so Scepter can kind of be like +1 action and then the best payload card.
Well, yeah, so, like, the thing that in my mind separates Scepter apart from the rest of the Royal Throne family,
Scepterates?
Yeah, if we're inducting Scepter into the Royal Throne family, the thing that, like, makes it stand out in my mind is the time when the point in the game when you put it in your deck. Because a lot of the time I will put throne rooms in my deck, or crowns, or royal carriages, or whatever, at the time when I'm still trying to get control, because it can just play my control cards again, whereas the Scepter, I'm really only looking at it as extra payload. So, its use case ends up being a little more narrow in that case, I'd say.
Yeah, but you can put it in before you have the action density to support something like a throne room without the fear of drawing it dead.
Yeah, right. Like we said at the beginning, Scepter really shines when the village support is weak or non-existent, because that's the main gap that it fills in. That's the main edge it would have on just getting more copies of the card you would want to play.
The main edge, huh?
Yeah.
We already did that, though. Sorry.
We missed a great segue, Adam.
It's too late. Can't do it again.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep, no more podcast.
Yep, we're over. Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah.
We made it 82 episodes, and this is the last one. You can
'Cause-
forget about the Q&A, I guess, because Jake and I are both going to...
We just blew it. Yeah. That's,
Oh, wow, okay.
that's
I'll
all we
censor
got.
that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about, and Wandering Winder poo-pooed on this in his edge case, kind of mostly so that I could talk about like when it's actually good. I mean, I know it's edge casey and that matters, but like I actually had some things that I wanted to say about Scepter in combination with Draw.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, I've done a lot of playing with Scepter, trying to make it good like this. I've in Kingdom Design, but also I've failed to do it a lot in random boards. So let me tell you where I've had some success here. Thing number one is capitalism.
Not doing it. Oh, capitalism.
If you're gonna draw with Scepter, you would like to be drawing treasures. If everything in your deck is a treasure because of capitalism, that's great. You can continue to play it. And you know, these could be like a grand market.
Yeah.
And that's just great. I can play the grand market and I can draw more stuff and it's all treasures. So capitalism definitely has a synergy with Scepter. Scepter can be used as draw here. Especially on cards that can draw and also still be treasures. But I'm going to say with all of these, what you're really looking for is if you have action cards that draw that you need to get into play for your Scepters to imitate. You really want some way to play those at the start of your turn.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that like a lot of the normal ways you have of doing that are just other action cards. And since you want to be doing a lot of your drawing in your buy phase, a lot of stuff doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
So you're
that's kind of if Scepter had a catchphrase, it would be a lot of stuff doesn't work very well.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at Star Chart, which is from Renaissance. Had some fun with that one. Save is also just fine. You got this dumb action you can't play that you drew in your buy phase. Save it for tomorrow. That's A-okay. So I already talked about Torture and Wild Hunt. Those are just pretty good. Let's talk about Scholar. It's right there on the wiki page, man.
Yeah.
Scepter Scholar, #combo.
Wait, is it really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you can play your Scholar, okay? And then you play all your coppers, and then you play your Scepter, and then you still have the coppers in play, and you discard it, and then you draw 7 more cards, raw, and you can do it all again.
Okay, that sounds like it came from the same minds that brought you like some janky counting house strategy that didn't work out in practice. Because like, man, that just sounds bad.
It is bad.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Like I designed a kingdom around it, and it required the support of like 3 or 4 very, very specific cards. Now, granted, I was able, to pile the colonies on turn 8, but still, it was very specific, very narrow.
Right.
So then there's the other ways you can play treasures and then actions. So like Villa, obviously. I mean, but Villa's broken anyway. You're going to be doing a lot of shenanigans with Villa.
Yeah, it's not when somebody points out some super broken thing that you can do with Villa, the only thing I think is like, okay, but there's 8 other kingdom cards. What other broken things are there with Villa in that kingdom, right?
I mean, Scepter can help turn a lot of that up. Help crank up the volume.
Yeah.
Like most things in the Throne Room family would.
Yeah, right.
So it's fine there, but it's Villa that's really the star of the show here. But I do want to give a special mention here to Black Market and Storyteller.
Yeah.
Because now you can actually use Scepter as a village that like lets you play more action cards.
Yeah, it's
that
weird.
Aren't necessarily just payload.
Yeah, these things that let you play treasures during your action phase turn Scepter into Throne Room.
Good luck tracking what's going on in your turn, though.
Yeah, I give up. I would just... I'm
Yeah.
gonna tune out when I'm just gonna. If you start playing that deck and we're IRL, I'm gonna zone out for a little bit, and I'm just gonna have you tell me what you did on your turn when I come
it's
back.
funny, even if it's your turn, you're gonna be
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm playing Black Market and Storyteller, or Storyteller, and then I'm gonna play a Scepter, and then like I'm the one that's keeping track of
Yeah.
Jake's turn, and he's like, can I do this?
Yeah.
This has actually happened before, not with this particular thing, because I would never play with Black Market in real
Yeah,
life, but
well, I'm so spoiled on the online client that just keeps track of this stuff for you.
you just click on things, and if it doesn't work, whatever.
Yeah, if it doesn't
click
work,
on
the
other
client
things.
just won't. Yeah, I'll just click a different card.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's great. Yeah.
Spam click, brain off. Great.
Yeah, AFK click buttons. So, yeah, I mean that's Scepter for you.
I have a couple more things.
Okay.
Yeah. Other synergies that Scepter has. These are actually kind of similar to Royal Carriage's synergies, but Scepter, Scepter's there too. The really good one-of cards, like the prizes from tournament, or like the really good travelers, like I only have one disciple in my deck, I will Scepter the crap out of that thing because it's really great, and Royal Carriage and Scepter are good with those. Also the kind of payloads that really like to be thrown indefinitely, so I'm looking at Farmer's Market. Farmer's Market is just great with Scepter. You can just build a deck, you can get super thin and build it. We actually had a Podcast Kingdom with these two, and it was, that was a viable strat. It was very good. It was up against really good stuff.
But it turned out to not be terrible.
Yeah. And then there's Bridge and Inventor. Royal Carriage Bridge is actually a combo deck. It's not the best one, but it's good enough to be called a combo deck.
Yeah.
Scepter is good with these cards, but it is definitely not combo good. I mean, Royal Carriage Inventor doesn't make the cut. Royal Carriage Bridge, it's questionable if it does, but sure. But Scepter, no, you definitely need more support because you have to draw the Scepter with those things. You can't just turtle up, throw your carriages on the mat, and then just explode on one turn.
Sure, but that's not to say. I mean, that's not to say that it's not really, really powerful synergy to the point that if Scepter and Bridge are in the same kingdom, that is very most likely the end game payload that I'm building toward.
Definitely.
But yeah, so I mean, it's not a deck unto itself. You need support, but yeah, the synergy is very powerful.
Yeah. And then finally, just a couple of rules clarifications. With duration cards, if I play a duration card this turn, I can Scepter it, and that's just fine. However, if I played it last turn, remember, Scepter says you played it this turn.
Yeah.
So I can't play a Caravan last turn, get the draw on it this turn, and then Scepter the Caravan this turn.
Rip.
Doesn't work. And then also, Band of Misfits Overlord. If I want to Scepter one of those, I can't choose a new thing for it to be, because the bomb is still in play.
The Band of Misfits has the name of whatever.
It is that card.
Yeah.
It is that card. So if I play Band of Misfits
it's not a Band of Misfits anymore.
As a trade route, I can't Scepter the bomb and then decide to play it as something other than trade route. The only way the bomb can change what it is if it gets removed from play, and then Scepter can't play it because it needs to be still in play.
Yeah, for sure.
I really like Scepter. It's not a great card, but I love this card.
It's neat. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting piece of design space in Dominion.
It's just so awkward and narrow, and it's such a Johnny card, and I love it.
Yeah, it's not generically powerful, so it's really interesting when you do get it to work.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm done. We can move on. Sorry.
Well, the next card that we want to talk about is Charm, and Charm is another one of these 5-cost Silver Plus cards, right? Now with Scepter, we talked about the money mode of it kind of being a consolation prize, something you don't really want to be doing because it's just a really lackluster fight. With Charm, that's a lot less so the case. The plus buy and +2 cards or +2 coins on a $5 treasure is fine payload. If that is all that, it's boring and it's vanilla and it's not that great, but if that was all the card did, just be a 5-cost treasure that gave you 2 coins and a buy, you'd still buy this reasonably often, just because having plus buy is so good, and having that plus buy be non-terminal is so good for reasons we've gone over in other episodes.
Yeah. You should read the text of the card, Jake.
Yeah, I could do that.
Do you want to...
So Charm is a 5-cost treasure from the Empire's expansion. And it says, when you play this, +1 buy and +2 coins, or the next time you buy a card this turn, you may also gain a differently named card with the same cost.
Alright.
Yeah.
It's like Haggler. Only it wants to have
Different.
things at the same cost instead of different costs.
Yeah, so it's not really like Haggler. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Good talk.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, like that's a fine payload card, that first mode. It's boring and
pretty
vanilla, but yeah, I mean, like, to be honest, how many times did you buy Woodcutter when Woodcutter was a card? How many times do you buy Sacred Grove? Like, that's, I mean, the coins and buy are just fine on that, but that's the card's most common use case, but it's not its best one.
Yeah, you're definitely happier using the Gainy Bits.
Usually, yeah, I'd say so. So Scepter's, it's more, like, exciting, yeah. Scepter's other Gainy mode is ideally meant to read, like, plus more than $2 and plus buy, right?
Yeah, if I just buy a Pearl Diver with my extra gain,
Yeah.
then, like, what was the point, right?
Right.
There was embargo around them. But I mean, I guess that's more kind of a...
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Let's have a charming time. What can you do with charm? Well, the first mode of charm is rather charming, but kind of normal and boring. You just get the money and you get the buy and it's a treasure and duh. But that second mode, where you're doing the stuff with the gaining the stuff with the different names and the same cost and yeah, there's some stuff you can do with that, right? Say, oh, like I'm gonna get some extra duchies when I buy my 5 cost. Like, boring. I'm gonna get some extra provinces when I get my 8 cost. Ooh, yeah! So, obviously you need an 8 cost. So, like, maybe princes in the game. You're just like, I'm gonna draw my deck. I'm gonna play 3 charms. I'm going to put them all on gain, I'm going to buy a prince, and I'm going to gain 3 provinces. That's pretty nice. This is edge cased with Wandering Winter. That's not really going to come up, but if it does, it's there for you. But this is edge cased with Wandering Winter, so really that's like just the tip of the iceberg. We want to do more. We want to do this with Peddler, because Peddler also costs 8. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, Wandering Winter, how are you going to get 8 money and have charms in play that you're not taking for money to be able to make any good use out of this if you can't have any actions in play? Because once you have actions in play, Peddler isn't worth 8 during your buy phase. I knew you were going to say that, so thank you for asking, Wandering Winter. Well, Wandering Winter, here's the answer. You're going to have a bunch of Den of Sin in play. You're going to have a huge hand, right? And you're going to use that to get your charms lined up. And you're going to have 8 money. You're not going to buy any actions. You're going to do a Peddler thing. You're going to, well, I mean, you're not really doing a Peddler thing, but you're going to buy a Peddler and you're going to gain provinces off it. Or, maybe not Denizen. Maybe that's too normal for you. So you're going to have a bunch of crypts, and you have all your money underneath those crypts. And you take, like, all these charms out, and you have just enough money to hit 8. And all you have in play are treasures and crypts, because crypts are knights, just like the Dens of Sin. They're knights. They're not actions. They're knights. They're not actions. They're not knights like the Dame Anna and Sir Destry. No, they're knights as in N-I-G-H-T without a K, right? Because this is edge case with Wandering Winter. I'm not talking about knights. I'm talking about knights. Yeah. So you have that, right? And the crypts will line it up for you. Maybe that's too normal for you. Maybe you want to do it with knights, right? So with knights, K-N-I-G-H-T-S, you trash them because you did the thing where they hit your opponent's knights and they got destroyed. So, like, the knights helped you. Yeah. Edge cased with Wandering Winter. Or maybe there's other ways you can trash cards, right? Maybe you did a huge drawing thing, you made 1 million money, and then you used priest to help you make some of that money, right? and then use Bonfire, because you have a billion buys somehow. I don't know how. You have a billion buys. Use Bonfire to trash all those action cards, so then you don't have any action cards in play, because you Bonfired enough to get rid of all the action cards in play. Then you don't have any action cards in play. Your Peddlers cost 8. You buy a Peddler. You get all that charmed effect, because charm is only in effect on a card you buy, right? It's the next time you buy a card, not the next time you buy a thing. It's a card. Bonfire, not a card. So you Peddler back up to 8, and then you gain a bunch of provinces. You do it with mining villages too. That's kind of normal. You could also do it with experiments. That's kind of normal too. But hey, there's more than just gaining extra provinces with charm. Isn't there more edge cases, Wandering Wonder? I'm glad you asked, Wandering Wonder. There are more edge cases. So this is edge cased with Wandering Wonder. You got ruins. Ruins have different names from each other. Maybe you can pile off the ruins if they're low enough. Like, you got to get lucky, because you might hit another one with the same name. But like, if you're real desperate and there's like 4 ruins left in the pile, you can do the gain thing with your charms, which isn't at all better than the buy thing with your charms. But like, if you want to be super cute, you could do it. Don't do it. Like, just do the buy thing. It's just like strictly better. I don't know. But maybe no, it's not strictly better, because they're also playing with tax, right? And tax has been applied to the ruins pile like 30 times. So you couldn't do it just by buying them. You got to do it with the gains, right? Yeah. So that's real edge casey, but this is edge cased with Wandering Wonder. Right? Split piles more generally. We talked about knights earlier. Knights here, right? Martin's not there. Like, I've got 5 charms in play. I can empty the knights pile by gaining extra knights, because those all have different names. You know, if you got a split pile and they have the same cause, you can do stuff there. Finally, let's talk about playing defense. So you're playing defense against charm. Your opponent's going to do this thing where it's like, I'm going to buy a card and I'm going to gain a bunch of cards off my charm, and then I'm going to win the game because of that. Well, they can't do that if there isn't another card to buy. So let's say it's duchies, because they're going to gain out all the duchies, and they're going to win because of that. And you're like, oh no, what do I do? Well, the thing is, on this board, the only 5 other than duchy is charm. And so if you can get the last charm, then they can't do it, because they can't buy a card that costs 5 that isn't a duchy. So they can't do it. They can't catch up on you. So you just buy that last charm, because obviously they have like 7 or 8, because they're trying to go for this, right? And so you just buy the last charm or 2, and then they can't do, like, they could buy a duchy, but they can't gain anything off of it, right? So if there's a particular price point, they need to gain a bunch of cards off it, and you can get it down to where there's only 1 card at that price point remaining, you are golden, my friend. I mean, like, obviously they can do anything else, but this is edge case with Wandering Wonder. They can't do anything else. You force them into a corner.
Huh, I didn't know we had another one in us. Well, us.
We didn't have one last week, so that,
Yeah.
whew.
Yeah, he was just sweating out edge cases. Anyway, so yeah. So Scepter, or Charms Gainy mode, to be getting the most out of it, is supposed to read like plus $3 or $4 or $5 in plus buy. It just has some restrictions on how you use it. And it has that minimum of plus $2 in plus buy if you can't like get around those restrictions. Yeah. So let's look at this another way. If Charm just, or if there was some like treasure that just said plus $5 in plus buy and cost 5, that would be like insane payload.
Almost as good as Capital.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, that would be, yeah, I mean, it would be crazy, right? And like the things that like help Capital get around the deck are crazy payload. And so like when we are looking at, but Charm obviously has some real restrictions to get there. So when we're looking at getting the most out of Charm, we're looking at getting its text to read closer to plus $5 and plus buy, or plus whatever dollars and plus buy.
Yeah, and notably, one of those restrictions is not you can't use this to buy green cards.
Yeah, so we're rarely going to be able to get there if we're looking at like scoring with provinces or colonies, right? Although Wandering Winter went
You
into
just
a
heard
few
about it,
cases
yeah.
when you can. The obvious one is that like we're using that to build our deck, right? To be buying cards at the sub 8 price points, buy cards that maybe cost the same as each other. To put extra cards into our deck. So it's a lot of payload that can be used to get these deck components that can make it come together.
Yeah, provided that there's, two things you want
Yeah.
with the same cost.
So yeah, Charm is payload that definitely plays very nice with other payload.
Yeah, and it's easy to miss. I remember the first time I was doing this, I kind of assumed that I would be getting the $2 to help me pay for that thing.
Yeah.
But if I want to gain a fiver with Charm, I have to hit 5 without the charm, but still have the charm in hand.
Yeah, so like you really want to draw some cards for that. I'd say
that's
usually.
hard.
Yeah, it is hard. So like it plays nice with draw cards, and it plays nice with other payload for that reason. Really,
that's true not only of Charm, but of like a lot of payloady cards.
Yeah, for sure.
Just so you know.
And there's a real like light switch where Charm flips from being like a mediocre card to being like really, really powerful, and that's when it can gain fibers, I'd say. So like when you get to the point in your deck where you could realistically hit 5 and be able to play the Charm and not have the Charm helping you hit 5, but hit 5 without it, that's when I would say you usually start thinking about putting the Charm in your deck. And like maybe not before that, usually. Unless you need the plus buy before that. But
I mean, sometimes Silver's a fine card, and you're okay putting it in earlier, but like...
If I was going to take a silver
silver
instead, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully you wanted that.
But it starts being a lot better than a silver when you can hit 5 without it. And then it starts gaining fibers for you.
That's super hot.
Yeah, so the other thing is that we talked about not really being able to score with it, but there's the obvious duchy thing, right? There is the idea that you can get a bunch of charms in play and buy some 5 cost, and then gain multiple duchies on your turn. How often do you want to...
The things you gain with multiple charms, they can be the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
I remember when I first read this card, I thought, well, if I want to get 2 charms out and gain with both of them, I need 3 things that cost the same. That's just not true.
No,
you buy
can
one
stack.
thing,
Yeah.
and then all your charms can go gain duchies.
And Wandering Winter covered the province thing, but there's some other weird stuff like these are a lot of people play with heavily cards from the same expansion, so the charm interaction with like City Quarter and Royal Blacksmith or whatever, like these are things as well. Or
it feels so good to like get an expensive card like that.
Yeah, even like Scrying Pool and Apothecary.
You're welcome.
Sure. Yeah. Familiar, Alchemist, whatever.
One time, I developed a familiar into a golem in university. It was definitely not the best thing I could have done.
No.
But I just wanted to say that I did it.
Yeah, it was less about winning the game and me more being like, hey, look at this.
Really, like, Stonemason is like, that'll actually happen with Stonemason. Right. I mean, that's just... This is edge case with Jake.
Yeah. So, so we are really looking at Charm as, again, it has the payload, the synergies you'd expect payload cards to have. It has synergy with other payload, and it has synergy with draw. And a lot of that is coming down to getting Charm's box to read plus a lot of dollars and plus buy.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that was charming.
Yeah, charming.
Do you want to talk about Kingdom?
Yeah, so there's this Kingdom we're going to be playing, and it's got Scepter and Charm in it.
Sick.
We didn't really feel the need to separate them like we do with sometimes on these dual episodes.
Or to separate them?
To separate them, just because, we didn't really see, they don't really affect each other too much. But let's read this.
You can have a charm and gain a charm and a scepter because they cost the same.
Yeah.
Or if I use scepter to draw, I could draw a charm and be happy about it. Boom! Synergy. We did it.
Bam. Okay, let's talk about the vehicles we'll have for that. So, this kingdom has Fortress, Ironworks, Priest, Throne Room, Trader, Cash, Charm, Mountebank, Scepter, Scholar. It has Salt the Earth, and Sewers. Once more for our audio-only listeners, we have Fortress, Ironworks, Priest, Throne Room, Trader, Cash, Charm, Mountebank, Scepter, Scholar, Salt the Earth, and Sewers.
So normally when I see Scepter on a kingdom, I see fireworks.
Yeah, this is like, you start thinking like, okay, how do I make this work?
Yeah,
But
and it normally doesn't work out. But when I saw this one, the first thing I saw was, oh, there's Priest and Fortress and Sewers!
yeah.
You can trash a fortress with Priest, get the money, and then you can use Sewers to trash the fortress again!
Yeah, I mean, so, like, this is... I think, like, this is just typical, like, Priest Fortress being nutso, right?
Just so we're clear, if that was the first Priest I had in play,
yeah.
I don't get the extra money from that. Right?
Yeah, well,
I end that process with $2. But if I had a Priest already in play, and then I Priest a fortress and Sewer the fortress, I get the credit for treasure for previous Priests.
Right, so here's the thing. Whenever you see Priest and Fortress together, understand that it gets you a bunch of money. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how... Yeah, that's the John Madden in me coming out again.
Wow, nice.
But, yeah, I mean, with Priest Fortress together, it lights you up. It lights up the kingdom as being like, hey, if you can support this with some draw, you can basically have infinite money. Like, you can have huge amounts of money, and so then you look to support that with plus buy, right? So...
Hey, but there is plus buy here.
There is, and I'm seeing all the tools to make this work, so I think that this kingdom is going to revolve around Priest and Fortress, I would say.
So you want to get thin, you want to play some fortresses and priests and a scholar, and then use charm for plus buy, right?
Yeah, basically. And I think I'm going to ignore Mountebank, too.
Woo! You just said ignore Mountebank.
Yeah,
right,
I did.
So let's dial that back a little bit, Skippy.
Yeah.
Ignore Mountebank. There's no way that you ignore Mountebank. You definitely don't ignore Mountebank. Okay, so in case you're an audio-only listener, he's giving me a look like, I don't know, man, I think you ignore Mountebank. I'm going to talk about some things that are, a little Johnny, a little Adam with Scepter here, overvaluing it. We have not begun with that. I definitely think you have to get... It's Mountebank, Jake. It's Mountebank. Hashtag it's Mountebank. It's creepy that you're looking at me that way. Okay. We'll make that the thumbnail for the episode. Let me just get my phone out real quick and take a picture. You don't ignore Mountebank.
I don't got it.
Anyway. All right. Well, I took a picture, and that's going to be the thumbnail. Anyway, Mountebank is extremely important. Maybe you don't buy it, but I certainly don't think you ignore it because, then you'd be getting Trader, right? I don't think that's a very good strategy.
I'm not getting Trader.
To do that.
I'm not getting Trader.
So in that case,
I'm getting Priests and Sewers.
Then I want a Mountebank. So in any case, I think we would agree here. You open with Priest Sewers.
Yeah.
Getting thin is super great.
Yeah. And on a 5-2, you take the Mountebank. By the way, on a 5-2 for sure, you're going for the Mountebank.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think Mountebank opening is pretty decent.
I'm saying like, if you get past those first couple of turns, and maybe if you hit 5 on turn 3,
you're gonna hit 5 on turn 3 or turn 4.
So
that's happening, right?
Well, it's not guaranteed to happen. Actually, hang on a minute.
Oh wait, that isn't guaranteed to happen. Because you might want to trash more. No, I would take the Mountebank. So let's say I have Priests, copper, estate.
Okay,
It's a choice between thinning a copper
I'm gonna
or
choose-
getting the Mountebank.
I'm going to choose between thinning to beeline toward that deck where I'm playing a bunch of priests and fortresses and getting scholars and stuff like that over getting a Mountebank. But if I can get a Mountebank without compromising any of my other goals, like I hit 5 and getting the Mountebank doesn't cost me trashing a card, I'll take the Mountebank, sure. But that's the only time I'm taking it.
So yeah, I think Mountebank is a lot more important than that. I think you
Okay.
definitely get it. And here's the reason why. Like you have these big visions of building this deck. But first of all, the only draw you have here is Scholar.
The only draw I have is Scholar.
So you're building a draw to X deck. Draw
Yeah.
to X decks have issues, especially when the core component, this plus buy that you really, really need to find every turn is Charm.
Is a treasure, yeah.
So that means you have to be very, very thin, right? Because at the end of it, you're going to play a Scholar. You're going to draw whatever cards that you haven't played yet, and then those have to be your charms. If you have junks in your deck, that's an issue,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be thin, and you have to stay very on top of it. Now, no, I'm saying you can do that, but that's something that you have to do.
Yeah, it is something I have to do. I just don't think it's going to be an issue.
So here's the other thing. You need a lot of cards for that deck, and they cost a lot. Which costing a lot doesn't matter, but you
No,
need to
they-
gain them.
They cost 4.
You need some charms
You need
and scholars.
Some
You want
charms.
a decent number of scholars in the deck. I think Throne Room is probably decent
Sure.
payload along with your priest to get a lot of money if that's something you want to do. But Salt the Earth is there, and I think Salt the Earth is kind of important.
Yeah, but I don't think that Salt the Earth is... So, okay, I understand...
I don't think you're gonna get to build that deck that does double province.
Well, here's the thing. I think that if you try to rush me with Salt the Earth, the deck I'm describing building is not super inflexible to the point that I can't start greening if I need to.
You're right.
If you start trying to rush me with Salt the Earth, I think you are going to put yourself in a worse position for it, because...
I'm only going to do that if I see that I can end the game and win from there. Okay, I'm not going to just
sure.
start. I'm not going to open sewers and then salt the earth.
So you're
and trash
talking
an
about
estate.
you're
That's
talking
not what
about
I'm doing.
greening earlier than I want you to green,
And I think
and
that
then-
makes Mountebank a lot better.
That sounds reasonable. Okay, so a lot of this is talking about how these individual games play out, and maybe reacting to what the opponent's doing, and in the cases you're describing, Mountebank is sounding a lot more reasonable.
So what I'm suggesting: open priest sewers, prioritize getting Mountebank ASAP, prioritize shoving scepters in the deck a lot.
Okay.
I can double my Mountebank, I can double my priest, and I'm going to be junking you, and I'm going to, the curses are going to run. I'm still going to be getting some control over my deck, but hitting you with the junk, even the coppers, continually, and then I'm going to be in a position... I think I'm going to be in a better position there, and if I want to, maybe I can salt, or maybe I can... I just don't like Scholar in the deck is all.
Well, yeah, I mean, Scholar's a pretty weak card, but it's the draw we have. So
I think I would aim for single province, and I would have options of salting to close the game out.
I think I would build to the deck I'm talking about building, and as far as single or double province, I'm going to react to the position I find myself in.
I'm never putting a charm in my deck.
Oh, I think the charm helps you build along the way, too. Like, the charm is helping you get double fours.
So,
And-
you looked at this board and you say, I think you get charm and I think you ignore scepter. And I'm thinking, I want all the scepters and I don't think I want charm.
Yeah, okay, so we have opposite reads on that.
Yeah, so there's, and just keep in mind, this is Adam and Scepter.
Yeah,
I
Adam-
overvalue Scepter all the fucking time.
Yeah,
just be aware of that.
Scepter is a bit of a pet card for Adam.
It is.
So,
Kind of like Coppersmith. Rip
Yeah.
Coppersmith.
yep, Coppersmith is dead, though.
He's with Harambe
Yeah.
now. Rip in peace.
Harambe and Scout. So...
Yeah, so anyway, that's my read.
I said that you don't really need Throne Room, and you said, no, that's stupid. Because, I was saying, if you told me...
Your deck, yeah.
Yeah, if
you
you-
weren't going to put Throne Room in your
Yeah,
deck.
if you told me I can't buy Throne Room... I said, I will probably end up with Throne Rooms in my deck, but it's not the Throne Room is doing something for me that the rest of the kingdom isn't. If you tell me I can't buy Throne Rooms at all, it's not really going to change my game plan a whole lot.
Yeah, it's like you Throne Room plays a lot nicer in the deck you want to build because it's draw to X, right?
Yeah.
Throne Room is a
Yeah, I mean,
plays nicer with that, and Scepter doesn't, right?
So it's a draw to X deck, but like the deck I'm talking about isn't insanely dependent on drawing a whole bunch. So like it's
I
not
think
like
it is.
I just need to line up some priests and fortresses.
I think it's
and, like,
it's
drawing-
dependent on being very thin.
Drawing a whole bunch it helps me get absurd amounts of money, but if I don't need absurd amounts of money, I don't really need to draw a ton.
You need to make sure you find your charms.
I need to make sure I find my charms. And I need to make sure I find my priests and fortresses. That's the only requirement, though.
Yeah. So
So
you
if
want
you're-
Throne Rooms. Yes, no, maybe. I don't know.
Throne Room's probably good.
I mean, Scepter is it's a better card for the deck I want because I'm not wanting to put Scholar in it. And,
Yeah.
and really, Scholar is the only thing that Throne Room likes more than Scepter does here. Also, Scepter costs more. Rip.
Yeah.
But Scepter can be Mountebank.
You're right.
And I like that.
Yeah, so, anyway. Again,
Best
let us know
Throne
in the
Room
comments what you would do here. Would you just mindlessly buy Salt the Earth until you lose?
And, you know, if one person turns for Salt, I guess it changes everything. But yeah.
Yeah.
Try and be good at Dominion.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know what you think. And also, reminder, if you have questions for our Q&A episode, doing a mini-sode on that. It'll be 3 episodes from now.
You could open Sewers, Salt the Earth, and Trash an Estate on turn 2.
That's actually really good for the Salt strat.
That's good for the Salt strat. It's really bad for this board, though. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
'Cause
because the
there's
Salt
better-
strat's not good. You don't,
Right, there's
you don't
better
get
stuff
Salt
to
on
do.
turn
Yeah.
2. Don't do that. But yeah, let us know of any questions you want to hear us answer on that episode. As always, let us know what you think about this kingdom or anything about the podcast. We like to hear from you. And until next time, educate. Yeah,
We have
I
to
got
buy
to
our own
meet my
coffee.
boss's boss's boss.
Yeah, how was that?
It was fine, I guess.
Yeah. Was he, like,
No.
all leveled up? And
She.
was she all, like, leveled up?
Wow!
Hey, okay. So, like, I have to assume one of the two. I could say they, but
Yeah,
I'm
you
not,
could.
I'm not conditioned to do that yet. That was technically incorrect until 2017. So I'm still kind of reeling, okay?
Yeah, but this is 2019.
Yeah, this is 2019. And
Hashtag me too.
listen, it takes some time to adjust. I'm getting there.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, it takes some time to adjust. That's actually kind of fair.